¿A dónde está papi? 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 ¿A dónde está papi?
Welcome to the Tuesday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Tuesday. Welcome back from the weekend. Welcome Heat, Quad Bennett, Firefly. Welcome everybody. Hope y'all are having a fantastic Tuesday. We have quite the amount of things to cover, folks. I'd like to start by asking you to join the Discord. This weekend we had yet another movie night. We're thinking about doing things a little bit different. But definitely consider checking and joining the Discord. Be a part of the community. Folks, if you're on the YouTube, keep liking the stream. I see you. Thank you. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Consider supporting the channel. There are many different ways. You can hit !merch. Welcome everybody. Alright folks, we got plenty of stuff to go through, so I'm gonna start. Sorry about the late start, folks. Got stuck at work again. Just had to endure, yeah.
Nearly every time you buy something, you're paying an invisible toll. It's not to the worker who made the product or to the business that provided the service. It's to the hidden middlemen at the center of our economy.
I buy everything on my Platinum Cashback Everyday credit card.
No preset spending limit.
Less hassle and more convenience.
What's in your wallet?
Credit cards. At this point, they're basically how we pay for everything, but we rarely think about how they actually work.
Credit cards are a truly massive transfer of wealth from working class and middle class people to the wealthy.
Credit card companies are some of the most profitable corporations in the world. Why? Do they really add that much value to our lives?
They're getting money from both sides and loving it. It's not so great for the rest of us.
In February, Capital One, the massive credit card lender, announced that it's merging with a competitor, Discover. The merger, if it happens, would create the largest credit card company in the US. When I started digging into the details, I was genuinely shocked, not just by the merger, but by how the credit card industry already operates.
The fees that we pay are absolutely exorbitant.
Yeah, it's a trap. Exactly. The concept of credit cards and credit scores, the way the credit scoring system works is just so absurd.
It's an industry with cartel-like pricing, and the private tax it imposes on all of us adds up to hundreds of billions of dollars a year. To understand how it works, let's start with a simple question. How do credit card companies make money? We can divide that into two categories. First, money they make from buyers, from interest and fees on cardholders like me and you. Second, money they make from sellers, from swipe fees charged to retailers on every sale. Let's look at the buyer side first. This market is dominated by the big credit card lenders, like Capital One. I talked to somebody who knows this market from the inside.
So I started right out of college as an analyst.
Elena Botea worked at Capital One from 2013 to 2018. There, she saw firsthand the strategy that's made it enormously profitable, and it wasn't at all what she expected.
So if you look at Capital One compared to other credit card companies, what you see is much more aggressive marketing to people who could probably not pay back their loans.
Instead of targeting the wealthy, Capital One pushes credit cards on customers likely to miss their monthly payments, working people.
we're talking, about underwriting up to a point where 1 in 3 people are going to default and then get sued.
Capital One mails out so many credit card offers that in some years it's been a #1 customer of the US Postal Service. But what surprised Elena was that the company's top profits came from something else its customers didn't ask for: increases to their credit limits, unsolicited enticements to spend more.
Yep.
A huge amount of this debt, right, is not coming from people coming forward and saying, I want to borrow money. It's coming from people who are working class, who are middle class, who, without them taking action, suddenly have more credit available to them. And in that context, it's very hard to say no. That realization that a lot of this debt was basically induced was sort of the first thing that made me realize, just this whole market doesn't work the way I thought it worked.
For credit card lenders, raising a credit limit is so profitable.
Yep. They gave me a card in college with a high limit for my income. I barely worked part-time. Same. They took advantage of a completely noob 18-year-old, fresh, ready to go and ready to get into college, and they were like, "Yep, that person can responsibly pay for, the limit that I had at the time."
Because the more purchases they can get customers to put on the card, the more interest and fees they're likely to rack up. The average American...
Yeah, so the best thing that you can probably do is just like, if you have credit, if you have credit cards, just try not to freaking use them, man. These things are so freaking predatory.
now pays over
But it's a catch-22 because there's a lot of people who need to. It's not an option. They need to, or else they can't put food on the table because the paycheck doesn't hit until the next couple days or so, whatever the case may be. When I turned 18, countless credit card offers were mailed at my parents' house. Yep, exactly. That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened to me.
$1,000 a year in credit card interest and fees. And last year, credit card debt in the US reached over $1 trillion for the first time. At the same time, credit card interest rates have doubled in the last decade, reaching a record high in 2023, far outpacing the rise in the federal rate. A recent report by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau showed that the bigger the credit card company, the higher its interest rates and fees. For the millions of Americans with lower credit scores, Capital One is the largest credit card lender. The second largest is Discover. But Discover's interest rates are on average 2 percentage points less than Capital One's. So there's little question that combining these companies would raise prices for Discover customers.
When Capital One and Discover are allowed to merge, there's fewer competitors, more opportunity to raise prices. We're talking about going from families spending $1,100 on interest per year in fees to how far up can that be pushed before Americans reach a breaking point?
Yeah. We're approaching end game of the Monopoly board, so to speak, right? And we all know what happens, right? At some point in the Monopoly game, everyone decides that the one person controlling all the assets on the table and essentially wins the game. Well, they just flip the board over and it starts all over again, right? Then they're living credit card to mouth instead of hand to mouth. Yep. And these card companies, these financial institutions, they know that. They know that a lot of people depend on that. And what are you going to do? Not buy food? Not feed your children?
Okay, but what about the other way credit card companies make money? The swipe fees on merchants. Capital One and Discover argue that their merger would actually increase competition on that side of the market. But competition in that market does not look like what you might expect. 4 companies process credit card transactions: Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover. Together, they're known as the payment networks.
The payment network has the infrastructure to communicate the messages from the merchant's point of sale over to the bank and back. They're really like a data line.
Doug Cantor is a small business advocate who's been working to reform the credit card industry for many years. He explained that networks charge a swipe fee on every purchase.
Yeah, so I became aware of this working a long time ago. Working for a small business, a very small business, and I was able to have a little bit more of a peek behind the curtain, and like, man, these credit card fees on the small business end are also pretty freaking absurd, which then gets passed on to the consumer. So it's like they're triple dipping. It's like they're triple dipping. Not only are they making money by interest and fees, but they're also making money by extorting the not just extorting the card holder, the member, whatever, but they're also extorting the seller, and that seller then puts that back onto the consumer.
Usually 2 to 3% of the sale price. Those fees have more than doubled since 2014, reaching $172 billion last year.
So when you use that credit card, if you spent $100 at a store, the actual store only gets about $97.
Right. Something about the velocity of money, right? Exactly. Flip the board if you catch my drift. At some point, everyone's gonna get tired of one rich asshole, or I guess in this society, several rich assholes who control everything, and decide that they're going to flip the board because the game's effectively over.
My name is Jared Sheeler. I'm the CEO of the Hub Convenience Stores based in Dickinson, North Dakota. When I look at the expense portion of my P&L, the biggest line item there is labor, but after that, it's swipe fees. It's ahead of utilities, it's ahead of rent, it's ahead of health insurance that we pay on behalf of our team members. It's ahead of everything, which is kind of crazy to think about. As a business, amongst my 5 stores, our swipe fees last year were nearly $630,000. That's an absolutely massive expense, and we have to make up for it. We can't just say, oh, yeah, we're going to eat that. No, it's built into the prices of everything that we sell.
Right. Exactly.
What could I do with $630,000? What if?
So like they're literally like triple dipping. Jesus.
$630,000 was cut in half. What if it was cut by 25%? I certainly would have more money to be able to pay our team members. Because it's such a duopoly, such a controlled marketplace, there's just nothing I can do about it.
Just 2 companies really control this market, Visa and MasterCard. Together, they process 83% of US credit cards. And because they block cards from using any network besides their own, it's not an exaggeration to say that they set the price of the swipe fees that every retailer must pay.
What is this? It's a Twitch stream.
Visa and MasterCard both started as associations of the banks. The banks came together and literally as a collective, those banks on their board said, well, what should we all agree to charge? Here it is. We're now literally fixing the prices across all of these banks. They have set up a system where Visa and MasterCard are the center of cartel pricing among all the banks that issue their cards. Let's say you did that with grocery stores. If all of them got together and said, we're going to decide the price of milk, we'd all go nuts. But Visa and MasterCard have essentially gotten away with the same thing for decades.
With no real competition, these companies have no incentive to lower swipe fees. The result is that Visa and MasterCard have some of the highest profit margins in corporate America, about 5 times higher than the average company on the stock market. Capital One and Discover argue that their merger will create a stronger competitor to Visa.
Yeah. But will it though? Will it? I know what is it about? It's about politics. PD Ratboy knows a little something about price fixing.
Visa and MasterCard. And it might, but here's the thing. Payment networks don't compete by lowering swipe fees. They compete by raising them. That's because their customers are not the retailers, and they're certainly not us.
It's exactly upside down. Their customers are actually the banks that issue credit and debit cards. And what they're selling is, hey, we'll set these prices high for you. Over time, what we've seen is Visa and MasterCard compete to raise the fees higher and higher on merchants. So in that sense, they are trying to keep a customer happy. It's just destructive for the rest of us.
So if a merger won't help, how can we fix this upside down market and lower these fees? We could cap the fees, like they do in Europe, at 0.3%. That's about a tenth of what we pay.
Jeez.
And Visa and MasterCard are doing just fine in Europe. Or we could create real competition by requiring each credit card lender to do business with at least 2 payment networks. That could drive swipe fees down, as retailers would get.
Nah, I like the idea of setting caps on things like this. I don't understand. These are banks. Yes. What don't you understand?
Get to choose the network with the lowest fee. A bill now being considered in the US Senate called the Credit Card Competition Act would do just that. But in the last 2 years, Visa, MasterCard, and the major credit card lenders have spent over $50 million to oppose that bill. Tellingly, they appear less threatened by the possibility of a Capital One merger with Discover.
What's really interesting is Visa, MasterCard, as well as other banks, you would think they would be running around Washington saying, we're worried about competing with this new behemoth. Except they're not. And the reason they're not is they're all in this cartel structure together. So there's no reason to complain.
The purpose of a payment system ought to be to make it as efficient and inexpensive as possible to buy and sell things. And with today's technology, the cost of moving money should be very close to zero. But whether we like it or not, we're beholden to a warped system that the credit card companies have built.
Yep. They said they're doing fine in Europe. Never heard of swipe fees. Well, they exist. Ask the next time you swipe a credit card, and you go to a local shop, ask the owner how much they have to pay in swipe fees.
Capital One and Discover are trying to merge simply to exploit that system more fully. Their merger can help us understand the places where the system is broken, but it won't fix any of them. That will only happen if we get organized and limit the power of their industry. Thanks so much for watching our video.
Capitalism gonna capitalism, I suppose.
But on the subject of depression, so John Fetterman has been, that's a really horrible segue, by the way, but nonetheless, John Fetterman, genocide supporter, Israel sycophant, he's talked about depression quite a bit and has been commended for it. And one of my critiques about him has been, aside from the Israel stuff, has been that he doesn't ever offer policy solutions. He's a U.S. senator, and so I don't want to hear how we should talk about depression and...
Small business owner here, ask extra if you don't pay cash. I wonder why that is. It's because they're making up for the swipe fees.
You know, raise awareness about it. Like, that's not your role. You're a U.S. senator. You're a policymaker. So what policy prescriptions are you offering? Well, guess what? Since May is Mental Health Awareness Month, he has finally offered legislation. And on CNN, he's coming to talk about said legislation. And I'm going to share my thoughts on this legislation. But let's hear from him and have him discuss it.
There's a simple hack for a swollen For depression.
About said legislation, and I'm going to share my thoughts on this legislation, but let's hear from him and have him discuss it.
Last year, Fetterman checked himself into a hospital for treatment for depression. Here's what he told CBS about that experience.
The whole thing about depression is that objectively you may have won, but depression can absolutely convince you that you actually lost.
All right, Democratic Senator.
And a lot of people at first, you know, this was when he was first elected, we were like, okay, you know what? It's actually really cool that you're sharing this because, you know, lawmakers don't usually share this part of their lives. And that's just real. It's human, right? And so a lot of people, you know, in the aftermath of the election, when people were still kind of riding high on Fetterman, we were like, okay, cool. You know, the next step logically would be for you to introduce legislation to help other people and not just talk about yourself. But in this segment where he's supposed to talk about legislation, as you're going to see, he just talks about himself. But there is legislation. But let's hear him out.
Senator John Fetterman joins me on set now. Senator, very nice to see you. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, it's great to be here, yeah.
You're doing this with Senator Tina Smith, who also came forward and talked about her own struggles with mental health. How do you think what you're planning would help others? And it's something that people still seem to feel the need to keep to themselves a lot of the time. And you have really set an example in talking about it. How has that changed your life, and how do you hope it will change other people's lives?
Yeah, well, we want to make it a national conversation as well, and it's got to be bipartisan because it is. Now, it's not just a red county.
That's the first disagreement. It doesn't have to be bipartisan. You could just create legislation that's not bipartisan, and if Republicans don't support it, then you attack them for it. But that's, you know, a small gripe.
Or a blue county kind of it's for everybody, and if it's not you, it's probably someone that you know or you love or you work with or whatever that needs that kind of a conversation. And just yesterday I had two student groups visiting in my office, and two people referred. They're like, yeah, your conversation last year helped, you know, me, and I decided to get help in that, and that's the reason why I'm doing. That's why I'm
okay. Again, cool, but having a conversation about mental health, this is something that influencers can do. Again, this is a man in a position of power. So he shouldn't just be an inspiration for people to seek help. See, the problem is that people don't have access to help. So the question is, how do you use your position of power to make mental health care more accessible?
Yep.
Medicare for all? I doubt he's going to support that. A public option? I mean,
literally anything, okay? Because, like, hey, you know, it's great that people talk about it, but the issue is that, like, this dude isn't just a dude. He's a senator.
Even some neoliberal means-tested thing, what's the solution? Are we getting to that? We'll find out.
Happy to be here today to just say, hey, we have to normalize that, and it's okay to have those feelings, but it's really important to go out and get help.
Do you think some of this is generational? You're honestly one of the younger members of the Senate, an august body though it may be.
Yeah, well, young doesn't really mean, it's very relative in our town. But I will say that it's an important conversation. And when I first...
okay, I have to pause it again. You're a senator, so I need more than conversations, right? It's great that you're encouraging people to have conversations, but what's in this legislation? How are you going to make sure people who need healthcare, who acknowledge there's a problem, seek that out and get it if they want it? How?
Signed into Walter Reed, I thought this could be possibly the end of my career on that, or it'd be very damaging, but after that, I got very lucky. You know, I was able to get help and was able to get better. So I wanted to pay it forward, and I wanted to take that platform that I have to talk about it for everybody. And whether it's a judge in Texas, she visited and she said, hey, it was your conversation. I got getting help. And I've met people regularly and hear that. So it's a national conversation.
Okay. We're having conversations. You've inspired so many people. What the fuck is the solution? We are now, like a couple of minutes in? 3 minutes in? I fast forwarded a little bit for the monologue, but what the fuck is the solution? You're a policymaker. Get to it.
And I'm just grateful to be here today because a little over a year ago, I emerged from Walter Reed, and I'm going to be talking about this.
So one of the things that can be really challenging for people who are trying to address this is insurance coverage. It's hard to get for mental health
Here we go.
challenges. How would what you're doing today try to help that?
It must be so difficult. I was very fortunate. I was able to turn to Walter Reed, and of course that's not going to be a lot of people.
Okay, how are other people? How is everybody else going to be able to access the care that you were able to access?
Right. We need to expand those resources, and also
How?
it must be pretty hard to, even if you have insurance for that, it's to get on the docket for a therapist to talk to people as well.
What do we do?
So I think we really need to address all this again, and that's why
How?
having it in a national perspective, not just a state one or a local, I think we need to make sure that is part of health overall, that so it's not separate mental health and physical health, it's all just part of overall health.
Brilliant. How the fuck do we do that? See, that's the question, and he's not answering it. So what is in the legislation that you have written? I know what's in it. I'm not going to reveal that yet because it's comical. But how exactly do we do these things?
Yeah, that was pretty lame. Cognizant with a tier 1 sub for 27 months. Thank you so much. Fetterman, you better... You're not, so stop asking plebs. Politicians are good on talking about nothing. Well, this particular one is.
So, Senator, we had some news earlier in the show about Senator Bob Menendez of New Jersey.
And that's it. So they're moving on to a different subject. So he has the opportunity to promote this legislation that he just created with another member of Congress. Who is it? Tina Smith? I can't remember. Anyways. And he doesn't talk about the legislation. He talks about some of the difficulties with mental health care, talks about himself quite a bit, which he loves to do. Didn't actually say what's in the legislation. Now, before I show you what's in this legislation,
Mayhem hippie.
Take a guess. What do you think it's going to be? Like, do you think
more money for corporations? Nothing? I don't know. Welcome, Mayhem hippie.
I think the obvious solution, if I'm a U.S. Senator, Medicare for all. That's easy, right? That is comprehensive. We expand and improve Medicare, make sure everybody can get it, and then that includes mental health care as well as dental, vision, because we shouldn't leave out parts of our body. All of it should be covered. That's part of healthcare, right? So I'm just pushing Medicare for all. That's easy, and I'm pushing Medicare for all as a means to help people get the mental health care that they need. But, I mean, it's John Fetterman, so of course he's not going to go that far. So maybe a public option. A public option specifically for mental health care, where people can buy into a government plan to get mental health care. That's probably too far even for him, right?
Mayhem
Okay,
hippie.
well, what about some type of policy?
Mayhem hippie with the tier 1 sub. Thank you so much for 13 months. Wow. Thank you. I appreciate the support.
Mandating insurance companies cover mental health care. And you
I mean, like, any one of those options, I suppose, is better than the current option that we have, which is, the current option that we have for mental health is just, like, is just very, 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 very poor.
have subsidies for low-income people.
Anything. Literally anything. But I'm not going to hold my breath here for John Fetterman, you know. By the way, thank you all for the support. Thank you so much.
He's still not even doing that.
No?
That's not even what's in this legislation. Do you want to know what this legislation is?
More money for
nothing.
Insurance companies.
I kid you not. This legislation does nothing.
I don't need shampoo or conditioner.
All it does.
So state Medicaid does not always transfer state to state. Yep, that's true. Vermont Medicaid is not accepted in New York and their neighbors, and New York Medicaid is accepted in Vermont. Make it make sense. Heat with the 10 biddies. Jeez, you guys are on fire today. Thank you so much for all the support. Thank you, Cognizant, Mayhem, Hippie, and Heat. You want to know why? Because of reasons. I don't know. Doesn't make it. Whatever the reason is, it's probably asinine.
It establishes a commission on mental health, tasked with providing Congress and the President an independent expert policy recommendation to improve access and affordability of mental health care services. Guys, he's just creating a fucking commission to study mental health care.
Nah. Because the qualifications are different and harder to get in New York, so therefore your Vermont Medicaid is not valid. Learned that when my son was visiting his dad in New York this past weekend and got pink eye. Yikes. Man, honestly, I would rather I would rather John Fetterman not do anything than pull this nonsense.
That's it. This is worse than anything a fucking neoliberal corporate Democrat think tank can cook up. Because he's not even saying, here's a policy. He's saying, here's legislation.
Yeah, we're going to talk about it and investigate this a little more. Like, no, man. We need action, dude. Seems like you guys have your work cut out for you. Healthcare shouldn't be free, but it should be cheap. It should be free. It shouldn't cost you money to be healthy. I don't understand. I know it's difficult for some people to wrap their heads around, but like, I don't know, man. It's very simple for me. I don't think healthcare, something that you literally need, so it's non-negotiable. Like, healthcare is non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable like food. It's non-negotiable like water. You need healthcare. It should just be free. Yeah, I know, Mayhem Hippie. I'm sorry. Just doesn't make any sense. It would be more. All of this could be avoided if we just had some type of universal healthcare system.
To create a commission to do more study. What the fuck do we need a commission for? We know what's needed. We know that people need mental health care, and there's a crisis in this country. There's lack of access. It's too unaffordable. So fix that. What more do you need to study? What exactly do you have to study? And here's the thing. Let's say that this commission, it's like, hey, you know what? We're done. The conclusion is mental health care should be free. That's the only way to solve this. And this is hypothetical. That's not what they're going to say. But just for example, they say, here's our recommendation. Well, Congress can then say, thank you. Take that recommendation, dismiss it, and then never talk about it again. So after all this time, trying to be the mental health care guy, his signature policy with regard to healthcare is a commission. A fucking commission. What a useless piece of shit. I mean, you might as well fucking
not do anything.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Because that's what this is. A commission isn't going to do shit.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this is, you might as well just not do anything. if you also have universal income, cheap is affordable to everyone. I mean, yeah, or just, I don't know, make something like healthcare free universally for everyone. I don't know. Like, why do we have to add extra steps when we can just divert resources that we have and make healthcare free for everybody? The only people that have universal income here in the U.S. is the Congress and well over sliced oversized bagel slicers or a cake party anytime now. Yeah, I was referencing Monopoly earlier, that eventually, once the game is getting to an end, people just kind of get tired of, the one rich asshole and flip the board over,
And it's unnecessary. Even if this commission turned out to be really, really progressive, and they're like, no, we need Medicare for all, that's the only way to solve. It's just going to make policy recommendations. Okay, but why do we need policy recommendations when we know what to do? This has been studied extensively. The American healthcare system.
Can we just agree no longer send aid to countries whose people have better quality of life than ours? Yep, it would be inexpensive if we could get corporate America to stop poisoning us, promoting disease, feeding us food product instead of food, stealing all our water. Yeah, 100%. That too. Can we just agree? Oh, yes. So we have inspectors of inspectors and people making instruments for inspectors to inspect inspectors. It's not that simple. It needs to stay affordable for everyone. Yeah, affordable. Like free. I don't understand. This is it actually is very simple. You use the resources that you have as literally the most wealthiest country on the freaking planet and be like, you know what? Healthcare is kind of like a thing that everybody needs, so we're just going to do that. It is literally that simple. What is affordable? What is that? Nothing can be more affordable than like free at the point of service, right?
Has been studied extensively. There are countless organizations that know exactly what you need to do. But he's creating a commission for more studies? I mean, what the fuck is the point? See, this is him. He's basically trying to pretend like he's doing something when he's done nothing. And he could say, well, I established a commission, and nobody can criticize him, because then he can go back to talking about himself and his mental health struggles while doing jack shit for normal Americans. And he acknowledges that, he was able to check himself into Walter Reed. A lot of people, they don't have the resources to check themselves into rehab if they're experiencing depression. So he knows that there's issues for normal people. But he's like, here's a commission. Now shut the fuck up. Let me get back to talking about myself. Yeah, I was depressed. Listen, I don't care about your depression, John Fetterman. I don't give a shit about you, okay? I care about normal people who don't have the money that you have, who don't have access to the healthcare that you have access to. But I love that the commission is already limited in what it could recommend, because it's supposed to make expert policy recommendations on how to improve access and affordability.
That's not true. But free can overload the system. You can make a system that's affordable. Everyone yeah, you're acting like as if. What is overloading the system? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means in the richest country on the planet. What does that even look like? Do you think that everybody's just going to simultaneously get sick? How does that even work? It's fucking healthcare. This makes no sense. What do you mean overload the system? This makes no sense. This country has literal literal god money, okay? Literal we have enough money to fight God herself, okay? There is no freaking way, if we really wanted to, that we could overload a universal healthcare system. Some people use it if not needed. Some people will go to the doctor just to go to the doctor. I don't understand. How do you use healthcare when you don't need it? This makes zero sense. You think people are just going to show up to doctor's appointments? And hey, so what if they do? Preventative care is like making sure you go to the doctor. You'd be surprised. No, you're not giving me any actual like data as to how that would even work. You're just saying people will. And then when I ask you like, how does that even work? And would people even do that? Your response is you'd be surprised. You can't know that. Except you can't because it would cut into quarterly profits of hospitals, clinics, and drug manufacturers, insurance companies, and all the suppliers for the medical industry because everything is effing privatized. Yep. Like, it's such a silly way of thinking. Like, the moment you make something like healthcare a universal thing, your thought process is oh, the system can't handle it. People are just going to use it randomly. And? You want people to go to the doctor, man. Of course, you want people to go to the doctor. I don't understand. Like, preventative care is one of the best ways to freaking save money on healthcare. So, yeah, it's actually good if you go to the doctor. Healthcare is a human right. Exactly. The issue is not enough MDs, MPs, and nurses if everyone could see a provider when needed. Well, if you have to, oh, I don't know, OZY, $20, and people with low income pay $5, there's a threshold to only go when needed. This makes no sense. Again, people aren't just like throwing, if like tomorrow, like, you know, someone just like Thanos snapped and like we had a universal healthcare system, a functioning universal healthcare system, people aren't just gonna like line up to go to the doctor for no freaking reason. And let's say like that happens where just, I don't know, everyone decides to go to the doctor. In that hypothetical, yeah, that would be a good thing. I would want people to make sure that they're checked out and prevent, you know, any further disease down the line. I don't understand like how this is a problem. Now I understand what you're saying, Wolf Glenn. Well, if we had at least diagnosis in the home, that would be the actual future. A little bit of money also funds healthcare, which, again, in the richest country in the world, who has literal FU money to fund enough to fight God herself, money isn't an issue. Half of the low-income emergency room visits would now be an office visit. Would be great and cheaper. We should have these things. Yep. That is a very good point, Cognizant. That is a very good point. Also, like, again, this is healthcare we're talking about. It's non-negotiable. You need healthcare, so yeah. In any case, the best option would be some type of single-payer system.
Mental health care services. So the best that we get out of this commission is like them saying, well, listen, we should expand Medicaid in certain states, or expand the eligibility pool of Medicaid in certain states. It's honestly laughable, and I genuinely find this insulting. The fact that he would come up with this after having a year to draft something, it's honestly just insulting. If I were his constituent, I would feel like this is a slap in the face. If you care about mental health care and you need mental health care, and this is what your senator comes up with, that's just insulting. But this is his press release. This is from his website. And let's read a little bit, okay? Because I love how he's pretending like this is some big thing. What a fucking but he's pretending like this is a big thing. So today, U.S. Senators John Fetterman and Tina Smith introduced the United States Senate Commission on Mental Health Act of 2024. So brave. The bill would establish a U.S. Senate Commission on Mental Health tasked with providing Congress and the President independent expert policy recommendations to improve access to and affordability of mental health care services. Before I sought help, oh, he's talking about himself again. Before I sought help for myself, I was the biggest cynic, but it truly worked. Okay, I feel like we're past the point where you have to sell people on the efficacy of mental health care. A lot of people acknowledge, yes, I have depression, I have anxiety, but I can't do shit about it because I can't afford it. My insurance doesn't cover it. I can't see a therapist. It's too much money. But he's like, no, you guys, trust me. Mental health care is fucking awesome. Brother, we know. We know it's real health care, right? We're not talking about
Fetterman's entire senatorial career is insulting.
Homeopathy. It's real. That's not the issue here. This isn't 1992 where we pretend like, mental health care isn't a thing and it's all in your head. We know. But this doesn't do shit. But he loves talking about himself. Mental health challenges impact people across Pennsylvania and the country. From our reddest counties to our blue. No fucking shit, really. People in red counties and blue counties have healthcare problems and mental health care problems. God damn. Genius. How does he know this? Like, I'm being a dick, but I mean, I'm just so pissed off that we get a fucking commission, legislation for a commission that's probably not going to pass even, so it's beyond useless. But listen, this is like when you're trying to pad up the word count when the essay is like, okay, it's 500 words, and you just try to say everything you can to get to that 500 word count. When I used to, edit essays and grade papers, I could see when students are doing this. And this is what John Fetterman is doing. From our reddest counties to our bluest. From our biggest cities to our smallest towns. I mean, come on. I'm committed to ensuring that everyone suffering from mental health challenges has access to the same resources and treatment that I did. This bill will help make that a reality. No, it won't. It literally will not do shit. Shut the fuck up. And then we have Senator Smith. Mental health is just as important as physical health. Yeah, no shit. Okay, now he's talking about himself again. His decision to openly seek treatment. What? So brave. We get it. You're brave. Congratulations. I just woke up the kitty clapping. But you're brave. Cool. You did it. You sought help and you made it through. Stop talking about yourself. Holy shit. I hate him so much. So the commission's first year of study would focus on the following topics. Coverage of mental health care services, including mental health parity requirements under
That's okay. Any student can see word counts are power trips.
Federal health plans. Reimbursement rates for mental health care services with regard to mental health care providers. Workforce challenges, including barriers to entering this field and challenges faced by mental health care providers, including factors that contribute to burnout. I mean, this is nothing. They're covering such a small area as well that it's so useless. It's so useless. We know what the solution is. We don't need another commission. Okay, now there's just more stuff. Yeah, that's John Fetterman's big healthcare legislation. A commission to study some stuff rather than just doing what we know we need to do to make sure people have the healthcare that they need.
Yep. Steps for viability keeps the money flowing. I don't understand. But to keep it affordable, we can't make it free. We move a lot of money around. I don't care. You can absolutely make it free. It's absurd to think otherwise.
On Sunday, the Israeli government struck sheltering Palestinians who were in tents in the Gaza city of Rafah, killing 45 people and injuring over 200 more, many of them women and children. Now, there was a lot of video that went around after that had happened, and it has led to an outcry because of just the level of carnage on display. The absolute disregard for human life that the Israeli government clearly has. But wait, the Israeli government, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has come out and says that it was a tragic mistake.
Oh yeah.
After Israeli strike killed dozens of Palestinians in Gaza City.
Yeah, just another oopsie, right? You know.
Of Rafah. A tragic mistake. I have the word mistake highlighted here as we're going to go through a short recent history from the so-called mistakes that the Israeli government has claimed they have made. This is what leads to. So this kind of claim of tragic mistake and there's going to be an investigation. We're going to really look into this and really figure out what happened here. How did we kill civilians again? How did we add to the 40,000 number? All these mistakes piling up.
Yeah, like, look, bro, this whole entire time, like, you've been just like leveling fucking civilians wholesale, okay? Like, and now this one particularly heinous incident is where you're gonna be like, oh, I don't know, man, this was a mistake. We had to really look into it. Yeah, this is a tough one, Mayhem Hippie. I've seen the video, but yeah, I don't think he's gonna play it.
This is what ends up happening. This is how the media initially covers it, and then we never hear about it.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea, Heat. Probably probably a good idea. I don't know how deep, because I'm just watching this for the first time. But yeah, good call, Heat. So how many folks are left in Gaza? Just asking to predict the number of mistakes still to come. I think like the last thing last number is something to the effect of like 1.2 million people are in Rafah. That's the last estimate I've seen. But yeah. I'm gonna disengage from this. I'll not be nice and not censor. I love you all though. No, it's okay. I completely understand.
About it again. This is from the BBC. This is shared by Saul Standenforth.
Step back, a deadly incident that is being investigated by Israel's defense forces.
We wait to hear the results of that investigation. Dan, with that update from Jerusalem, thank you.
And that is the last time you will hear about this on BBC. It's being investigated. We will wait to hear the results of that investigation. You'll be waiting. You will be waiting. That's for sure. Remember this? Israeli strike kills 7 World Central Kitchen workers. Citizens from Australia, Britain, Poland were among 7 people killed in an Israeli air raid in central Gaza. This was April 2nd.
Almost 2 months now.
Have there been big updates from the BBC, from CNN, from NBC News covering what happened here? No. The media collectively moves on because this is what they do, and Israel knows this is what they do. This was that attack. It was a direct, purposeful attack on World Central Kitchen as they were trying to feed starving civilians in Gaza. But it was a mistake. Israeli military admits serious mistake in killing of 7 food aid workers. Didn't mean to. Just shot them right through the damn logo. Complete mistake. Yet, a month later, this comes out from Human Rights Watch, which should have got just as much attention as the initial attack did. Israelis attacking known aid worker locations. They have knowingly been doing this. Israeli forces have carried out at least 8 strikes on aid workers, convoys, and premises in Gaza since October 2023, even though aid groups had provided their coordinates to the Israeli authorities to ensure their protection. Israel's attack on April 1st on the World Central Kitchen convoy, which killed 7 workers, far from being an isolated quote-unquote mistake, is just one of at least 8 incidents that Human Rights Watch identified in which aid organizations and UN agencies had communicated with Israeli authorities the GPS coordinates of an aid convoy. And yet Israeli forces attacked the convoy or shelter without any warning. And if you care to pause the video and read through the others, here are the 7 other attacks. All of these mistakes. We knew exactly where they were. We have their GPS coordinates.
Yeah, disregard the drones we have in every location. Yeah, like, disregard the fact that we had their exact GPS locations. Let's just not dig too much into that. I don't understand war, but my granddad sure did during, I guess, World War II. This isn't war. This is just a massacre. This isn't war. Thank you, Mayhem Hippie.
We shot them in the logo, but no. Mistakes. How about this mistake? This is from, anyone that tries to tell you, there was, before October 7th, or there was a ceasefire. And Hamas broke that ceasefire. May 12th, 2023, Israeli Defense Forces apologize for death of Al Jazeera's Shireen Abu Akleh for the first time. Israel is very sorry. It was a mistake. We killed a Palestinian journalist. Complete mistake. And then we attacked her funeral. Mistake. Oops. Oh, was that her funeral? Oh, I thought it was someone else's funeral. I'm sorry. How about June 14th? June 14th. Which, clearly was not this year, as right now it is May. June 14th.
Yep. Genocide, plain and simple. This is America, could be next January.
2023. Israeli military admits killing Palestinian toddler by mistake. Closes initial investigation. We investigated.
Yeah, we investigated it, and it turns out it's our bad, and that's the end of the story.
It turns out we did do this, but it was a mistake. We thought it was a cantaloupe. This is a consistent pattern of displaying that you don't view Palestinian life as valuable. In this case, forces randomly shot at a car that an officer, again, this is their claim, that the officer thought he heard shots from. Who knows if that's even true? It's likely a lie, but that's their excuse for why this happened. How this was a mistake. Why would you shoot, even if that happened, which I don't believe it happened, even if that happened, why would you shoot at a random family getting into their car? Unless you don't view their lives as meaningful, as anything.
True, the toddler was Hamas. Welcome, Bipedal Meatbag. Hamas leadership. Yeah, there you go.
This is the mentality of how Israel operates. There's more. We can keep going. Israel killing a 15-year-old Palestinian girl in West Bank casts light on civilian casualties. By the way, also worth mentioning here, West Bank, not run by Hamas. So even if they want to claim, it's Hamas. Nothing to do with this. June 29th, 2023. This one's more recent. In Rajab, which I've covered several times before. Quote unquote, they were shooting at us. A fleeing Gaza family is killed along with medics sent to find them. She was on the phone, crying for help. As medics were finally given the green light in to save her, Israeli forces shot them all. But good news.
Good news.
The White House is assessing.
Yeah, good news, everybody. The White House is concerned. They don't value human life at all. They have acceptable levels of friendly fire.
If Israel violated their red line with Rafah. Put a better way, this from The Onion, Biden expresses doubts that enough Palestinians have died. This is a disgusting U.S. government led by a disgusting man.
Yeah, and like you could tell David is particularly. I mean, like we all we all should be, but you could tell David's hit a certain type of way. He's not even on camera. He's not even on camera.
How much more needs to happen before there is any value put on the life of Palestinians?
So that is meant to segue. Well, I don't know why is nobody wanting to vote for Biden? I don't understand. Why are people upset? Why are Biden's numbers so low? Dems in full-blown freakout over Biden. A pervasive sense of fear settled in the highest level of Democratic Party over President Biden's re-election prospects, even among office holders and strategists who have previously expressed confidence about the coming battle with Donald Trump. All year, Democrats have been on a joyless and exhausting grind through the 2024 election, but now, nearly 5 months from the election, anxiety has morphed into palpable trepidation, according to more than a dozen party leaders and operatives. The gap between what Democrats will say on TV or in print and what they'll text their friends has only grown as worries have surged about Biden's prospects. Yeah, I mean, like, it's quite simple. This is not a secret, okay? This is not a secret, and as another incident literally just happened, I don't see I don't see things improving. Older men declare war, but it's the youth that must fight and die. I don't understand what this has to do with anything. There's no war being fought here. This is just straight up annihilation. This is straight up extermination. There's no war being prosecuted right now. It's just one side with a giant steamroller. That's it. There's no war happening here. It isn't a war. It isn't a conflict. Quote, you don't want to be that guy who's on the record saying we're doomed or the campaign's bad or Biden's making mistakes. No one wants to be that guy, said a Democratic operative in close touch with the White House and granted anonymity to speak freely. But Biden's stubbornly poor polling and the stakes of the election are creating the freak out. This isn't, oh my God, Mitt Romney might become president, which that's pretty bad. To it's, oh my God, the democracy might end. Like, if this is truly like the actual thought process here of the upper levels, of the upper echelons of the Democratic party, if this is like the conversation that's being had, then like, man, it seems to me like at this point, it just seems irresponsible. So they're gonna let Biden lose before they hurt his fifis. Yeah, I heard Richies like to gamble, but not like this. Despite everything, Trump is running ahead of Biden in most battleground states. He raised far more money in April, and the landscape may only become worse for Democrats. With Trump's hush money trial concluding in another one, this involving the president's son, set to begin in Delaware. The concern has metastasized in recent days as Trump jaunted to some of the country's most liberal territories, including New Jersey, New York, to woo Hispanic and black voters, as he boasted improbably that he would win those areas. While he's long lagged Biden in cash on hand, Trump's fundraising outpaced the president's by $25 million last month and included a record-setting $50 million haul from the event in Palm Beach, Florida. One advisor to major Democratic Party donors provided a running list that has been shared with funding of nearly 24 reasons why Biden could lose, ranging from immigration to high inflation to the president's age, the unpopularity of Vice President Kamala Harris, and the presence of third-party candidates like RFK. Oh, man. Geez. I think that inflation is probably a good one. But yeah. Donors ask me on an hourly basis about what I think, the advisor said, calling it so much easier to show them, so while they read it, I can pour a drink. And OK Life, welcome. Richies don't think Donald Trump will ever be a real threat to them. They can put him down if push comes to shove, and they don't care how much he undoes the shit we plebs like worker rights, constitutional rights, etc. Well, they think they can control him. They think they can control him. Where is that money going to? Campaign or legal bills? Mostly legal bills, probably. Israel has been subject to terrorist attacks since decades. It might not. I don't care. Fuck off. This is not an excuse. Literally 2024. Yeah, like no, there's no another victim of communism. True. This is absurd. This is absurd. Like to try to be like, well, Israel has been subject to the terrorist attacks since decades. Like I don't like there's the I don't need to be I don't need the fluff behind to try to like hide or minimize what's happening right now. Plain and simple. The advisor added, the list of why we could win is so small I don't even need to keep the list on my phone. On the day after news broke that Biden had trailed Trump in fundraising last month, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey raised the pressure on donors as she introduced the president to a crowd of 300. Wow. The cluster of fundraising events Biden attended in Boston that day were expected to bring in more than $6 million for his political operation, but Healey said that wasn't good enough. To those of you who opened up your wallets, thank you. We'd like you to open them up a little more and to find more patriots who believe in this country, recognize and understand the challenge presented at the time. Jesus. Laughter rippled through the room, but Healey's voice turned serious with unusual urgency. For Healey, the governor implored the room of high-collar donors and local Democratic leaders to think long and hard about the stakes of the election. Also, like, hey man, like how screwed is it that like we're reading about like potential presidents just having high dollar events to try to raise money for campaigns. Heat with the 10 biddies, thank you so much, I appreciate it. There have been few moments in Biden's term as president that haven't been second guessed. Oh, look, another clown. Let's save America. Okay, I will. There you go. There have been a few moments in Biden's term as president that have been second guessed, and his aides have made sport of sneering at grim predictions, compiling dossiers of headlines and clips in which the president was underestimated. Biden campaign aides and allies point to some positive polls, including in the battlegrounds, and Trump's comparative lack of campaign and infrastructure in key states, including staff organizing programs and advertising. Here's the thing, though, like, that isn't much of as much of a factor for Trump as it is for, like, Biden. Because, again, the people that are going, the cult members like this phenomenal intellectual titan that just left us, these people, they're going to vote for Trump no matter what. It doesn't matter if Trump's not doing campaigns or doing advertising. It doesn't matter. They're just going to vote for Trump. That cult is pretty reliable. He doesn't need to do these big, campaigns or anything like that. His cult is going to vote for him. That's it. A Biden campaign advisor granted anonymity to speak freely stressed that the president's team never made any indication that Trump's hush money trial would help or hurt him. Instead, the advisor contended that Trump will be forced to defend cutting back abortion rights, attacking democracy, and advancing corporate interests as president. Yeah, like, the trial, the trial that is currently being finished right now, even if Trump is found guilty, okay, with this hush money trial, do you honestly think that it's going to severely negatively impact him in the election? No. Not really. Not really. I mean, the fix is in, right? This is a political witch hunt designed to interfere with the election. That's the answer. So if he's found guilty, his cult is just going to believe that this is another attack on the dear leader. This is just another political witch hunt, and that's that. Biden's only a safe choice when compared to Trump, and that's only because Biden's cabinet actually has some progressive policy that they could get through. Also prevents the right from having a chance to appoint more Supreme Court judges. I also think the Democratic economic strategy is better because it plays into how the economy works. And while it doesn't fix it or make it better, it makes it worse at a slow rate. But I think anyone that votes for Biden this time should take a good look at the system and realize that democracy no longer exists if these are our two options. I mean, I would argue that yeah, essentially, I would argue that the democratic systems, whatever democratic systems remain, are in serious question. The largest block of voters to be concerned about are not the cult of Trump, it's the Biden haters. Time for cake and oversized bagel slicers. His cult is much smaller now than in 2020. Trump lost all support outside of his base. Yes. But that cult will vote for him no matter what. This race is going to be about Joe Biden and the couch. The Libertarian rally where he was booed, that whole fiasco was absolutely hilarious. I don't know if you've seen like the discourse on that on Twitter. But yeah. But he can't win with just his base. Well, if enough people stay home, if enough people stay home, you know, after this election, we really need to modernize the Democratic Party and make radical change. We need protests like we've never seen before. The union increases, calls to action, getting most Democratic leadership replaced. And we really need to do our part. We also need to win over more moderates on the progressive side because I have a feeling people are slipping more to moderate conservative positions. Yeah, but that's like dependent on whether or not the Democratic Party wants any of that. Does that make sense? We need to make it want that. Well, you know the saying, right? You can lead a horse to water, but we can't make it drink it. The Democratic Party won't want that if we just go, well, my hands are tied. No, it's the opposite, right? They're the ones that are saying that. We need to get the right people locally and really put pressure on the asses of those in federally elected positions. I mean, we could try. Whether they care is another matter. Does that make sense? We already tried that with Bernie, and look how that turned out. I'll address that in a second. Trump's photo ops and PR stunts may get under the skin of some very serious DC people as compelling campaigning, but they will do nothing to win over voters that will decide this election, said Biden campaign spokesman Kevin Munoz told Politico. The work we do every day on the ground and on the airwaves in our battleground states to talk about how President Biden is fighting for the middle class against the corporate greed that's keeping prices high and highlighting Donald Trump's anti-American campaign for revenge and retribution and abortion bans is the work that will again secure us the White House. Biden supporters remain optimistic, say they'd rather be him than Trump before rallying around abortion and issues of reproductive rights, which Representative Dan Kildee of a Michigan Democrat called a fundamental game changer. We have to run a campaign where honestly we drive home the message that Donald Trump takes us back to the 19th century, Biden takes us further into the 21st century, but you can't sell that idea if he's not doing that. Like how would a second Biden term push us further than what we're doing right now? He did not remark on whether such a campaign is being run or run to his satisfaction. A lot can happen between now and then, said Representative Ann Custer, a Democrat from New Hampshire who's retiring after the fall election. She too pointed to eroding abortion rights under the conservative-led Supreme Court remade by Trump. I know a significant number of voters are going to be motivated by the Dobbs decision. Maybe. I'm sorry, but saying Biden takes us further into the 21st century is effing hilarious marketing. But Democratic critics of the campaign's approach, while agreeing that the abortion should be a winning issue, said they're challenged when pressed by friends to make the case for why Biden will win. There's still a path to win this, but they don't look like a campaign that's embarking on that path right now, said Pete Giangreco, a long-time Democratic strategist who's worked on multiple presidential campaigns. If the frame of the race is what was better, the 3.5 years under Biden or 4 years under Trump, we lose that every day of the week and twice on Sunday. In the swing state of Michigan, Democratic State Representative Lori Pohutsky suggested that Biden's standing is so tenuous that down-ballot Democrats can't rely in November on the top of the ticket to pull us along. In 2020, there was enough energy to get Donald Trump out, and there was other things on the ballot that brought young people in subsequent elections. That's not the case this time. I worry that because we've had 4 years with a stable White House, particularly young voters don't feel that sense of urgency and might not remember how disastrous 2017 was right after the Trump administration took over. Hey, listen, bro. Let me tell you something. We're not freaking stupid. Okay? The reason why young people are freaking angry and are unwilling to vote for Biden is very, very clear. The reason why young people are angry is very clear, okay? Whether or not the Biden campaign wants to listen is entirely up to them. Whatever the Biden campaign has been doing over the past 2 months, and it's a lot of activity, including $25 million in swing state ad spending, according to Ad Impact, it has only had a limited effect. According to 538, Biden's average job approval rating on March 7th, the date of his State of the Union address, was 38.1. As of Friday, it's 38.4. And his standing against Trump has also changed very little. On April 22nd, the day Trump's criminal trial began, the presumptive GOP nominee held a 0.3 lead in national polls, according to 538. Trump is about a point since then, currently leading Biden by 1.4 in the 538 average. Asked about polling, Munoz said the only metric that will define success of this campaign is election day. Yeah, this is nonsense. They're not getting it. Message is not clear enough, apparently. Meanwhile, Trump has already started his incursion into safe blue states. His campaign psychological warfare in New York, California, and New Jersey, where House districts will determine control of Congress's lower chamber, is spiking Democrats' already elevated blood pressure. New York Democrats need to wake up, said Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine. The number of people in New York, including people of color, that I come across who are saying positive things about Trump is alarming. Biden's weaker numbers bear that out. A Siena College poll released Wednesday showed Biden leading Trump in New York by only 9 points, 47 to 38, among registered voters. 4 years ago, Biden won that state by 23 points. I mean, this is not good, not great. The president is underwater in every demographic that delineated in the poll other than black voters. 53% of Latinos, 54% of whites reported to have an unfavorable opinion of him. To that end, Biden released TV and radio ads in the Empire State on Thursday ahead of Trump's rally in the Bronx. Levine has been something of a Paul Revere in New York, sounding the alarm 2 years ago when Trump-aligned Republican gubernatorial candidate Lee Zeldin appeared to have been gaining ground on Kathy Hochul, the moderate Democrat incumbent. Hochul narrowly held him off. I'm worried it's going to be a 2022 situation where everyone wakes up in the last 7 weeks and has to scramble. Said Levine, which hasn't swung to the GOP, said out of his state, which hasn't swung to the GOP since Ronald Reagan in 1980. This cycle, Democrats have also to contend with the war in Ukraine and the conflict between Israel and Hamas, which has deeply divided their ranks and contributed to a scene of chaos. Representative Richie Torres, a New York Democrat known for his ardent defense of Israel, is similarly concerned for his party, though he pointed to the higher cost of groceries and goods that started during the pandemic and has yet to abate. The greatest political challenge confronting the president starts with I, but it's not Israel, it's inflation. No, it's definitely Israel. The cost of living is a challenge that we have to figure out how to manage. I mean, definitely it's up there. He said Biden should focus around issues around affordability and continue to tout his success in capping insulin costs in areas with high rates of diabetes like his Bronx district. I don't know, man. This triangulation crap didn't work. Didn't work last time, and it's not going to work this time. The election is more competitive than it should be given the wretchedness of who Donald Trump is. In a properly functioning democracy, Donald Trump should have no viable path to the presidency. The fact that a competitive race is cause for concern. Yeah. Something I've been saying for months. Trump has railed against blue state officials, starting with the justice system in New York and California. He dispatched his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump, and one of his sons, Eric, to hold up the West Coast's Democratic heavyweight as a cautionary tale. Quote, "I'm sorry you have to live in communism," said Eric Trump in Wednesday at the Stampede, a country music venue in Temecula, an inland community between Los Angeles and San Diego. Trump casually dismissed California Democrat Gavin Newsom as the nation's worst governor. Oh, yeah, true. California is a communist paradise. I have no doubts. How about another means-tested tax rebate for the poors? Make no mistake, Trump said, there is a war happening in this country. The older Trump is set to appear early in June San Francisco fundraiser hosted by tech investor David Sachs and his wife Jacqueline, a clothing brand executive, along with venture capitalist Chamath I'm not even gonna pretend I can participate. Their past political donations run the gamut from Elizabeth Warren to super PAC supporting Kennedy Jr. He also gave to the recall committee against Newsom in 2021 and briefly considered running for governor. Silicon Valley's red piling has brought even more unwanted national attention on issues of open-air drug use, homeless encampments, and gangs of thieves who ransack retail stores across the Bay Area, which we know is overblown. San Francisco has changed with the taxpayers, the job creators, the tech CEOs that want to engage with the city and its politics. Dillon was reflecting on her run-ins with Democrats in the city, where she spent years leading the local GOP before her law firm represented Trump in legal fights to remain on state ballots. Few Democrats are willing to confide in Dillon about their fears, she conceded, but no one is sharing a sense of enthusiasm for Biden either. The most diplomatic thing I hear from Democrats is, oh my God, are these the choices we have for president? And, yeah. I feel like that's a good ending to that article. DNC plans to virtually nominate Biden ahead of convention amid Ohio ballot concerns. The DNC is planning to virtually nominate President Biden ahead of the party's convention after Ohio state legislator deadlocked on a fix that last week to get the president on the ballot in November. DNC Chair Jamie Harrison announced Democrats would be holding a virtual roll call to ensure Biden gets on the ballot in all 50 states. An announcement made on the same day Ohio state lawmakers returned to the Capitol for a special session to solve Biden's ballot access issue. Joe Biden will be on the ballot in Ohio and all 50 states, and Ohio Republicans agree, but when the time has come to any action, they have failed to act every time, so Democrats will land this plane on our own. Though through a virtual roll call, we will ensure that Republicans can't chip away at our democracy through incompetence or partisan tricks, and that Ohioans can exercise the right to vote for a presidential candidate of their choice. Democrats were notified earlier this year that the timing of their convention didn't meet a state deadline to certify the party's presidential nominee. Democrats needed to certify Biden by August 7th in order to make the Ohio ballot, but Democratic National Convention kicked off beginning August 19th. Ohio legislators struggled to reach a legislative fix. Senate Republicans passed a bill that would allow a one-time fix that would remove the certification deadline back so the Democrats can make it, but it was also paired with a provision that would ban foreign contributions in the ballot initiatives, which Democrats rejected, which, question mark? Yeah. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine ordered lawmakers last week to return to the Capitol this week to find a solution to get Biden on the ballot, expressing concern for a solution similar to what the Senate proposed, which included foreign aid contribution provision. That raised the question around how Democrats in the state would proceed given their opposition to the state Senate's proposal. The DNC solution offers Biden an avenue onto the ballot while avoiding an expensive lawsuit. Yep, well, we'll see. Really quickly, folks, because we got to get going. Judge Cannon rejects request for gag order against Trump in the classified documents case. Eileen Cannon is the Trump-appointed judge that is somehow allowed to sit on the bench for the trial that Trump, who appointed her, is in. Yeah, really, really not helping the accusations that she has a conflict of interest, huh? Donald Trump sells private jet to Republican donor amid cash squeeze. With more than $400 million in court fines on his back, Donald Trump has sold one of his two private jets he owns to a major Republican donor. According to FAA records. The former president transferred ownership of the 1997 Cessna Citation X on May 13th. So another way of putting it is bro's just selling off his stuff. Free R. Kelly. No. Man, we really have normal people coming in today, huh? The most normal of normal people. All right, folks, last article. The Texas GOP convention, Republicans call for spiritual warfare because this is a totally normal and not scary movement, folks. At the 3-day convention, delegates moved the needle further to the right, preaching Christian nationalism and improving rules that would give them unprecedented control of elections. From his booth in the exhibit hall of the Texas GOP 2024 convention, Steve Hutz saw an army of God assembled before him. For decades, Hutz, an indicted election fraud conspiracy theorist, has helmed hardline anti-abortion movements and virulently homophobic campaigns against LGBTQ plus rights, comparing gay people to Nazis and helping popularize the groomer slur that paints them as pedophiles. Once on the fringes, Hutz said Saturday that he was pleased by the party's growing embrace of his calls for spiritual warfare with the demonic satanic forces of the left. Yeah. Texas is crazy. Yep. People that aren't in Christ have wicked, evil hearts. Evil. We are in a battle and you have to take a side. Like, okay, so just to be clear, like, this is incredibly scary to hear, like, that this is a common accepted line of thinking within one of the major parties. Those beliefs were common at the party's biannual convention last week, which delegates adopted a series of new policies that would give the party unprecedented control over the electoral process and further infuses Christianity into the public life. Delegates approved rules that ban Republican candidates as well as judges who are censured by the party from appearing on primary ballots for 2 years, a move that would give a small group of Republicans the ability to block people from running for office should it survive the expected legal challenge. The party's proposed platform also includes planks that would effectively lock Democrats out of statewide office by requiring candidates to win a majority of Texas' 254 counties, many of which are dark red but sparsely populated, and called for laws requiring the Bible to be taught in public school. Jesus. Those moves, delegates and leaders agreed, were necessary amid what they say is an existential fight with a host of perceived enemies, be it liberals trying to indoctrinate children through their gender ideology, CRT, or globalists. You mean Jewish people waging a war on Christians through immigration? Because of course, yeah, explicitly Nazi shit. Very cool. Very cool. Those fears were stoked by elected officials in almost every speech given over the week. They want to take God out of the country, and yes, God was never involved in this. And they want the government to be God. What? Our battle's not against flesh and blood, said Senator Angela Paxton, Representative McKinney, said it is the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. An elected official, by the way. Look at what the Democrats have done, said Ted Cruz, again, an elected official attending this. If you were actively trying to destroy America, what would you do differently? I would probably switch my party affiliation to Republican. The Texas GOP conventions have traditionally amplified the party's most hardline activists and views. In 2022, for instance, that delegates approved a platform that include calls for a referendum on Texas secession, resistance to the Great Reset, a conspiracy theory that claims global elites are using environmental and social policies to enslave the world's population, proclamations that homosexuality is an abnormal lifestyle choice. Lifestyle choice? Abnormal? I don't know. And a declaration that President Biden was not legitimately elected. The 2024 convention went a step further. It was the first Texas GOP convention set against the backdrop of a civil war that was sparked by the impeachment of Attorney General Ken Paxton and inflamed by scandals over white supremacists and anti-Semites working for the party's top funders, West Texas oil billionaires Tim Dunn and Farrah Wilkes. This year's convention was also sparsely attended compared to past years, which some longtime party members had helped the Dunn and Wilkes faction further consolidate their power and elect their candidate, Abraham George, for party chair. What we're seeing right now is a shift to more populism, said Summer Wise, a former member of the party's executive committee who has attended most conventions since 2008, including last week's, and the party's infrastructure, leadership, decision-making process, power, and influence are all being controlled by a small group of people. Yeah, a shift towards more populism. Right-wing populism is just fascism, okay? The shift was most evident, she said, in a series of changes to the party's rules that would further empower its leaders and punish dissidents. The party approved the changes that would dramatically increase the consequences of censures, which were most recently to punish House Speaker Dade Phelan for his role in impeaching Paxton and against U.S. Representative Tony Gonzalez for voting for gun safety legislation, of all things. Under the changes, any person who is censured by the party would be banned for 2 years from appearing on GOP primary ballots, including judges who are elected in partisan races but expected to be politically neutral once on the bench. The party also voted to unilaterally close its primaries, bypassing the legislature in a move intended to keep Democrats from voting in Republican primaries. It's pretty hypocritical, Wise said of the changes, which legal experts and some party members expect will face legal challenges. Republicans have always opposed activist judges, and this seemed to obligate judges to observe and prioritize party over law, which is straight-up judicial activism. Yeah, but that's all BS, because of course, these right-wing judges, as we saw with the guy who Donald Trump appointed in Texas. The convention came amid a broader embrace of Christian nationalism on the right, which falsely claims that the U.S. founding was God-ordained and that it was institutional, and that its institutions and laws should reflect their conservative Christian views. Experts have found strong correlation between Christian nationalist beliefs in opposition to migration, religious pluralism, and democratic process. Weiss said she had seen parts of the party similarly shift towards the dogmatic political and religious views that have been used to justify, rationalize corrupting the institution and stripping away its integrity, traditions, fundamental and established principles, as if God wants it so he can rewrite the rules. Being Republican and being Christian have become the same thing. If you're accused of being a Republican in name only, you're essentially not as Christian as somebody else, and God help you if you're Jewish. She's just saying, like, in the most, like, unnecessary amount of words, she's just saying the Republican Party is, like, basically turning, basically it's just like an outright Nazi party, okay? And this is a Republican insider, like a person who's been at these things for years now, decades at this point. Bob Harvey is a proud member of the Grumpy Old Men's Club, a group in Montgomery County that says pushback against Fox News and other outlets that he says have been infiltrated by rhinos. People trust Fox News and they need to get outside of that and find alternative news and like-minded people. Said Harvey on Friday as he waited in a long line to meet Kyle Rittenhouse because, was ramped up his engagement in Texas politics since he was acquitted of homicide after fatally shooting 2 BLM protesters. Wasn't it 3? Anyways. Rather, Harvey's group recommends places such as Gateway Pundit. Ah, yes. A truly trustworthy source. Steve Bannon's Breitbart, another truly trusted and not biased source. And Epoch Times, another phenomenal source. A far-right website that also has a booth this year and is directly linked to Falun Gong, a hardline anti-communist group. Such outlets, Harvey said, are crucial to getting people further down the rabbit hole, after which they can begin to connect the dots between the deep state that has spent years attacking President Trump and the agenda of the left to indoctrinate kids through the Boy Scouts of America, public schools, and the Democratic Party. True. True. The agenda of the left to indoctrinate children through the Boy Scouts, public education, and the Democratic Party. Very normal and very hinged group of people. Harvey's views were widely held by his fellow delegates, many of whom were certain that broader transgender acceptance, critical race theory, diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives are part of the sinister plot to destroy the country and take over its churches. True. Culprits behind the ploy differed: Democrats, socialists, or globalists, Jewish people, to name a few, but the nefarious end goals loomed over the convention. Fearing a transgender takeover of the Republican Party of Texas, delegates pushed to explicitly stipulate that the party's chair and vice chair must be biological men or women. Cool. At events to recruit pastors and congregations to ramp up their political activism, elected leaders argued that churches were the only thing standing between evil and children. Oh man, the irony of that. And the party's proposed platform, including planks that claim gender transition care is child abuse, or urge new legislation in Texas that's even more comprehensive than Florida's Don't Say Gay bill, which prohibits the teaching of sexual orientation or gender identity in public schools. Our next generation is being co-opted and indoctrinated where they should have been educated. We are in a spiritual battle. This isn't a political one. If it isn't, then why are you in politics, dude? For at least a half century, conservative Christian movements have been fueled by notions of a shadowy, coordinated conspiracy to destroy America, said Mark Chancey, a religious studies professor at Southern Methodist University, focuses on movements to put the Bible in public schools. It's like the boogeyman that won't go away, that gets summoned whenever justification is needed for these type of agendas. They say that somebody is threatening the quintessential American freedoms, and that these threats are being posed by some sort of global conspiracy, rather than just recognizing that we're a pluralistic democracy. In the 1950s, such claims were the driving force between emergence groups such as the John Birch Society, a hardline anti-communist group whose early members, including the fathers of conspiracy theories Alex Jones and Trump. After decades of dwindling influence, society has seen a revival since Trump's 2016 election. And exhibit halls last week, the so-called Birchers passed out literature and pamphlets that detailed the New World Order's secret plan for world domination. Yeah. Steve Oxley, the field director for Birchers Society North Texas chapter, said interest and membership in the group has been on the rise. And he says COVID has been a factor. So yeah, I mean, I think the point has been pointed out. These are some very scary folks. Okay, it's not just like these people are clowns, but it's so much more than that when you have actual sitting members of not only just the state legislation, but like Congress people, like senators, being involved in this. Very scary stuff. Pay attention, folks. All right, folks, I got to get going. Thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate it. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for the subscriptions and biddies. I appreciate it. Thank you, Heat. Thank you, Mayhem Hippie. I appreciate it. Thank you, Cognizant. I appreciate it. Folks, if you want to support the channel, there are many different ways to do so. Keep liking the stream on YouTube. Keep subscribing. Thank you. I appreciate it. If you want to check out the merch store, !merch. Don't forget, folks, join the Discord, okay? Join the Discord. I appreciate it. I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. As always, folks, please stay safe. Please please take care of each other. I love you all. I hope to see you guys in the next one tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. See ya. Thank you, Heat. I appreciate it. Hang tight, folks. We're heading out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye.